Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Najmi bin Muhammaduddin and my metric number is A24A0060EP. So today I will presenting on a fundamental topic that serves as a heartbeat of our economy, which is gross domestic product, or commonly known as a GDP. I will guide you to its definition, how it's measured, and whether it's really reflect of our standard of living. So today, you will inevitably hear one acronym repeat over and over again is a GDP. We hear that economy is growing or that we are facing a recession. But what exactly constitutes this measurement, and does it really reflect the reality of life? Today, I would like to guide you through the concept of gross domestic product, or GDP. We will look at how it's measured, what's drives it, and it's most importantly, we will critically analyze whether it's a rising GDP or actually a better life of the people of the world. Conventionally, GDP is defined as the monetary market value of all final goods and services produced within a country's geographical boundaries of a specific period, usually measured quarterly or annually. Economic measure this through three main approaches. First, the production approach. Number two, the income approach. And the most common method, number three, is the expenditure approach. This sums up consumer spending, gross investment, government spending, and net export. In short, GDP is aggregate value that summarizes the performance of the entire economy. It is our main metric. A strong increase in a real GDP signals expansion and rising employment, while a decline for two consecutive quarters is the technical definition of a recession, signaling economic distress. Now, how do we increase the numbers? Based on empirical evidence, there are four engines that drive GDP growth. Number first is physical capital. This refers to investment in assets like factory, infrastructure, and machinery. You cannot manufacture more goods without equipment to do so. Number two is human capital. This is about the quality of the workforce. Through education, training, and a good health, a skilled workforce becomes more productive, creating more output with the same amount of input. Number three is a natural resources. The availability of land, mineral, and energy. However, we must note that over-reliance on extraction can have detrimental long-term effects. And number four is technology and innovation. This is perhaps the most crucial factor in the modern climate. Spending on research and development, R&D, creates more efficient method of production, acting as a catalyst for a long-term expansion. But we must be careful how we measure this growth. We cannot just look at the raw number. We must distinguish between nominal GDP and a real GDP. Nominal GDP can rise simply because prices have gone up due to inflation, even if a production is stagnant. This is why real GDP is preferred for measuring economic well-being. Real GDP removes the effects of inflation to show the actual increase in production. Ladies and gentlemen, this is bring us to the most important part of today's presentation. There is a statement often discussed by welfare economics. An increase in GDP doesn't necessarily reflect an increase in the standard of living and economic welfare of a country. Why is this case? Why is GDP an imperfect indicator? First, let's look at income inequality. GDP is an aggregate measure. It's look at the total pie, but it ignores how the pie is sliced. A country can have a high GDP growth, but if that wealth is concentrated in the hand of a small percentage of the population, indicates by a high Gini coefficient, the average citizen sees no benefits. The rich get richer, the GDP goes up, but social welfare remaining stagnant. Second, GDP ignores non-market transaction. It excludes unpaid work. Think of the immense value provided by stay-at-home parents doing housework or volunteer helping the community. This contributes positively to social welfare, yet because of no money change hands, GDP count it as a zero. Third, and very importantly, GDP ignore externalities. It is often called the perverse incentive of GDP. If a factory produces goods but pollutes the air and the river, GDP counts the production as a plus. It doesn't subtract the cost of a pollution. Furthermore, if a natural disaster strikes, the spending to rebuild infrastructure actually boosts a GDP. Now, does this mean we should throw GDP out the window? Absolutely not. Despite its flaws, national income statistics remain a fundamental tool for 4 key reasons. Number 1 is measuring economic growth. It is our primary compass to determine the business cycle. It tells us if we are booming or busting. Number 2 is policy planning. The government relies on this data to formulate new fiscal policies such as the annual budget and taxation. You cannot manage what you do not measure. Number 3 is evaluating sector performance. It helps policymakers to identify which sector, be it agriculture, manufacturing, or services, are lagging and require investment. Number 4, comparing living standard. While imperfect, GDP per capita is still the standard baseline for comparing the economic strength and purchasing power between the different nations. In conclusion, GDP serves as the main metric to measure the size and growth rate of economy. It provides the foundation for evaluating productivity and competitiveness. However, as we have discussed, it is not a perfect indicator of human welfare. It doesn't measure happiness, it doesn't measure safety, and it doesn't count the health of our environment. Therefore, while we should strive a healthy growing GDP, policymakers must look beyond the raw of the number. We must ensure that economic growth translates into actual improvements in the standard of living for all segments of society, not just a statistical increase on a spreadsheet. That brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you for your time and attention.